The wind came first, thin, needling, the kind that cut through wool coats and good sense alike. It swept across the prairie like a restless spirit, carrying with it the taste of snow and the promise of a long, bitter night. Cade Ellison listened to it whistle against the shutters as he stirred the venison stew, the fire crackling low behind him. Outside, winter pressed its face against every window, cold and patient and merciless inside. Though warmth lived in the flames, in the smell of supper, in the soft humming coming from the small bedroom where his daughter Emma braided her ragdoll's hair. Christmas Eve should have felt peaceful, should have felt something like hope. But grief had a way of stealing seats at the table when Cade least expected it. His wife had been gone nearly for winters now, but her absence moved through the cabin like a ghost, still deciding whether to stay or leave. He rubbed his hands together, willing the ache from his knuckles. "Storm's picking up," he muttered. Hope that calf was smart enough to stay in the barn. From the bedroom doorway, Emma peeked out, big brown eyes catching the firelight. "Papa, is someone cumin'? I heard something." He frowned. "Just the wind, sweetheart. Nothing else out there tonight." But he'd barely said it before a sharp, thin sound cut through the storm. A knock, small, hesitant and impossible. Cade froze. Nobody traveled this late, not on Christmas Eve, not in a storm that promised to turn mean before morning. He grabbed his coat and stepped to the door, rifle leaning within reach should trouble follow the wind inside. The knock came again. "Papa," Emma whispered. He lifted a hand. "Stay there, Em." He cracked open the door, bracing against the wind that shoved it inward. Snow swirled like white ghosts, and through them stood a shape-shivering Slight, wrapped in a threadbare shawl that was doing a poor job keeping out the cold. A woman. Her face was pale, lips blue, breath trembling in clouds. She clutched a small bundle to her chest, too small to be a baby, too bulky to be belongings. A single tear had frozen against her cheek. "Sir," she whispered, voice hoarse with cold. Please don't send me away." Cade stood silent for a heartbeat. Too long. Not because he didn't want to help, but because memories crashed in. The night he lost his wife. The helplessness. The cold. The choices he couldn't undo. The woman swayed on her feet. He caught her elbow. "Easy now. Get inside." She blinked up at him, surprise and relief mixing in her eyes. "Thank you," she breathed, and let him guide her over the threshold. Warmth wrapped her instantly, but she still trembled like she'd been carved from ice. Emma hovered near the table, doll clutched tight, eyes wide with worry. Cade shut the door, locking the wind back out. Snowflakes clung to the woman's lashes. "Sit," he said, gently pushing a chair toward her. "You're frozen through. Emma, fetch a blanket." Emma darted off. The woman set her bundle down. It was a fraying satchel. Nothing more, and folded her hands in her lap. They shook violently. "Name's Cade Ellison," he said. "This here is my daughter. You're safe, ma'am. Storm's too rough to be out in." Shay gave a small nod. "My name is Lily Warren." Emma returned with a blanket nearly too big for her to carry. Cade draped it over Lily's shoulders. She flinched at the sudden warmth, as though heat hurt more than cold. "You want something hot?" he asked. She swallowed. "If it's no trouble, it ain't." He ladled a bowl of stew and set it before her. She stared at it with the hungry hesitation of someone who'd had to choose manners over survival one too many times. Cade nudged it closer. "Eat," she did, cautiously at first, then faster, spoon clinking against the bowl as though she feared it might vanish. "How long you been out there?" Cade asked, voice calm, though inside it tightened like wire. 2 days, she murmured between breaths. "I walked most of the way. I had no choice." Emma slipped into the chair beside her, resting small fingers on Lily's shivering arm. "Were you scared?" "Yes," Lily whispered. "Very." Emma nodded solemnly. "I get scared when Papa's outside too long." Cade gave her a gentle look. "Don't tell her that." Lily managed a small, fragile smile. When she finished eating, she set the spoon down with trembling fingers. Her eyes drifted to the fire, as though she needed to prove it was real. "Ma'am," Cade said quietly, "you want to tell me what brought you here?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Pain flickered in her gaze, deep and sharp, too deep for someone her age, too sharp for a stranger's cabin. "I ran," she finally said. "From what?" Lily looked down at her hands, twisting the blanket. Shadows stretched long across the wooden floor. "From my husband." A coldness that had nothing to do with the storm prickled along Cade's spine. He saw the bruise hafted near her temple. the stiffness in her left arm, as if healed wrong from an old break, the guarded way she sat, like she expected to be struck for breathing too loud. Emma looked between them, sensing tension without understanding it. Emma, Cade said softly, why don't you check on the firewood? Make sure Biscuit hasn't chewed the sled rope again. Emma hesitated, but it's dark. I'll open the back door for you. Dog won't be far. That satisfied her. She slipped her boots on and stepped into the mudroom. Silence settled. Lily clutched the blanket tighter. I didn't come to cause trouble. You didn't, Cade assured. She blinked hard. He'll be looking for me. Let him look, Cade said, voice low but certain. Ain't nobody causing harm under my roof. A tear slid down her cheek. I didn't know where else to go. Folks said you were a decent man. Said you help people. I hoped. Her voice cracked. I hoped it was true. Cade didn't know which folks she meant. Out here, word traveled slower than snowmelt, but reputations stuck fast once they rooted. He'd never tried to build one, good or bad. He just did what seemed right. But seeing her half frozen, shaking, carrying more fear than belongings, he realized someone must have believed in him, believed he'd help, and they were right. You'll stay here tonight, he said. Storm ain't fit for travel. After that, we'll figure things out. Lily nodded, though her eyes shone with gratitude too heavy for such a small cabin. The storm outside snarled louder, wind clawing at the eaves. Cade threw another log on the fire. Sparks rose like tiny stars trying to escape gravity. Emma returned, cheeks rosy from the cold. Biscuit was sleeping, she reported proudly. He snores. Cade grinned. Reckon he does. Emma approached Lily, studying her face. You can stay for Christmas. Papa makes the best biscuits. Not as good as your mama's, he said softly. Emma shrugged. Still good. Lily's lips trembled into a real smile, thin, new, but real. Thank you, Emma, she whispered. I'd like that, more than you know. The girl climbed into her lap without asking permission, laying her head carefully against Lily's uninjured shoulder. Lily stiffened, startled by the touch, then slowly, hesitantly, wrapped an arm around her. The softness of it seemed almost foreign to her, as though kindness was something she'd forgotten how to hold. Cade watched them, something in his chest loosening. Papa, Emma said sleepily, can we read the Christmas story before bed? Sure thing. He reached for the worn leather Bible on the shelf. It had sat there for years, too sacred to throw out, too painful to open. But tonight, it felt right. He read by firelight. Emma curled up beside Lily. Lily listening with an expression Cade couldn't quite place, wonder, maybe, or ache. When the reading ended, Cade closed the book gently. Emma stretched and yawned. Time for sleep, little lady, he said. Emma hesitated, looking at Lily. Can she stay in my room? Lily's cheeks flushed. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding, Emma insisted. Cade nodded. We'll set up a bedroll for her. You get some rest. Emma guided Lily to the small bedroom, whispering about blankets and window drafts, and the doll she named Rose. Lily followed, still moving like a woman, unsure of her right to exist in warm spaces. When they disappeared behind the door, Cade exhaled slowly. The storm bellowed outside, but inside, something softened, warmed. He didn't know who Lily Warren truly was. He didn't know what danger followed her, but one thing was certain. No soul who whispered, please don't send me away, on a night like this deserved to meet the cold alone. And tomorrow was Christmas. He would deal with the rest when daylight came. Morning came slow. A pale winter sun crept across the prairie, turning the snow into a field of glass. The storm had passed, but its anger lingered in the drifts piled high against Cade Ellison's cabin, burying fence posts and turning the world white and quiet. Cade stepped outside, boots crunching through the crusted snow, breath ghosting in the cold air. Christmas morning. He should have felt peace. Instead, he felt watched. Tracks not just his own cut across the yard, heavy, unfamiliar, leading toward the barn. He knelt, fingertips brushing the prints. Too big for Emma, too old for mischief, too fresh for comfort. Someone was here, he muttered. Someone looking, someone close. He followed the trail a few steps, before it vanished into windswept patterns. Whoever had come hadn't stayed long, or had left before he could wake. He stood still, jaw clenching. A cold fear tried to root itself in his gut, but he pushed it down. It was Christmas morning. Emma was inside. Lily too fragile, lost, scared. He couldn't bring fear into the house with him. He headed inside, shaking snow from his coat, Emma was already up, sitting cross-legged on the floor near the hearth, her rag doll dancing through the air with every movement of her hands. Lily sat beside her, wrapped in Cade's spare shirt and a blanket, hair still damp from washing. Color had returned to her cheeks overnight, but her eyes held the same exhaustion, a kind that ran bone deep. "Good morning," Cade said carefully. Emma beamed. "Papa, Lily says she's never had sourdough biscuits on Christmas morning." "That's so." Cade set his hat on the peg. "Then we best not disappoint." Lily smiled softly. "Your daughter's been very kind." "Emma's got a big heart," he replied. "Takes after her mama." Emma nodded proudly. "Mama helped lots of people." Lily's smile flickered, almost wistful. She must have been a fine woman. She was. The quiet that followed wasn't heavy, it was gentle. Cade moved to the stove, stoked the fire, and began kneading dough. Emma chatted about Christmas stories, how she wanted to ride into town on a horse one day, how Biscuit the dog had barked at the snow all morning. Lily listened, her hands wrapped around a cup of warm water Cade had given her. He didn't have tea, but the steam alone seemed to soothe her. But Cade's mind drifted to the tracks outside, to the bruises on Lily's face, to the way she flinched at sudden sounds. When breakfast was nearly ready, he cleared his throat. "Lily, there's something I need to ask." She stiffened. Emma paused mid-dal dance. Cade lowered his voice. "I saw tracks in the snow this morning. Someone came through." Lily's cup trembled in her hands. "No one should be out here unless they have reason," he continued. "Is your husband close?" Her breath shuddered. She stared into the fire as though it could protect her. "He's looking for me," she whispered. "He'll look until he finds me." Cade felt heat rise in his chest. Anger not at her, but for her. "What's his name?" "Graham Warren." She swallowed. "He's a rancher outside Dry Creek. Folks fear him. He's not a man who takes no kindly, and he hurt you." Her silence was answer enough. Emma scooted closer, laying a small hand over Lily's. "You don't gotta go back," she said simply. Lily's eyes filled, tears trembling like frost on lashes. "Honey, sometimes grown-ups end up in places they can't get out of." Cade stood straighter. "You're out now." Lily blinked, startled by the certainty in his voice. He set breakfast on the table, biscuits warm, stew reheated, butter soft from the heat of the stove. They ate quietly, though Emma did her best to keep spirits bright. When the meal was done, Cade rose, walked to a small trunk near the hearth, and opened it. Inside lay an old revolver, oiled and well kept, despite years of disuse. His wife's death had changed him. He avoided guns unless necessary, but necessary had come again. He holstered it. Lily watched, eyes wide. "Cade, you don't have to do this." "I reckon I do." She stood suddenly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. "You don't understand the kind of man he is. If he finds me here, if he thinks you helped me, he won't spare you or Emma." Cade stepped toward her, calm and steady. "Ma'am, I ain't afraid of him. You should be." He shook his head. "A man who hunts his wife in the dead of winter ain't strong. He's a coward, and a coward only wins if decent folks do nothing." She stared at him, lips parting but no words coming. A knock shattered the quiet. Hard. 3 slow, heavy raps. Emma jumped. Lily went white. Cade moved instinctively, placing himself between the women and the door. The knock came again. Cade approached, silent as snowfall, and eased the curtain aside. A man stood outside, tall, broad, wrapped in a thick dark coat. Snow dusted his hat and beard. His stance held confidence, no arrogance, the kind that came from getting his way too many times for too many years. Graham Warren. Cade opened the door, just enough to speak, the cold slicing in. "Can I help you?" The man's gaze narrowed. "Name's Graham," he said, voice deep and oily smooth. "I'm looking for my wife." Cade kept his expression still. "Ain't seen nobody pass through, 'cept the storm." Graham smiled, thin and humorless. "Funny thing, I found tracks leading straight to your place." Cade's jaw twitched. Tracks don't always tell the whole story. Neither do people. Graham leaned in. "Now, I'll ask you politely, is she here?" Inside the cabin, Lily's breath hitched. Cade didn't turn, didn't look back. He only said, "No," a beat. Then Graham's smile disappeared. "I'm not a fool, Ellison. Word around says you got a habit of taking in strays." Cade's hand hovered near his revolver. "Your wife ain't a stray. She's a person. She's my property." The rage that hit Cade was instant and blinding. Before he could speak, the sharp sound of something falling, echoed behind him Mez's doll, slipping from her hands. Graham's eyes snapped toward the noise. There, it was the flicker of recognition. He shoved the door wide. Cade's reaction was light. He caught Graham by the coat, driving him back a step. Snow sprayed around them. "Get off me," Graham snarled, reaching for the pistol at his hip. Cade grabbed Graham's wrist, twisting hard. The gun slipped into the snow. The two men grappled, boots sliding on ice, breath steaming in the frigid air. Graham swung, fist connecting with Cade's jaw. Pain burst like fire. Cade staggered but didn't fall. He'd been hit worse by bulls. He drove his shoulder into Graham's chest, sending the man crashing into a drift. Graham roared, lunging for his gun. Cade reached it first. He cocked the hammer and aimed. "Don't!" Lily cried from behind him. "Don't kill him." Graham froze, staring at the barrel pointed at his heart. Cade didn't look away. "You're gonna stand up, slow-like, and you're gonna listen." Graham stood, fists clenched, hatred seething in his eyes. Cade continued, voice steady as steel. "You're gonna leave today, right now, and you're never gonna lay a hand on that woman again." Graham spat into the snow. "You think you can protect her? You think she's worth dying for?" Cade stepped closer. "I think she's worth living for." Lily gasped softly. Graham's jaw tightened. "You'll regret this." "No," Cade replied. "The only man with regrets here is you." He lowered the gun butt not far. "Now get." Graham glared at them one last time, then turned, trudging off into the snow, fury trailing behind him like smoke. Cade watched until he was a distant blot on the white horizon. Lily collapsed to her knees, breath shaking. Cade rushed to her side. "It's over," he said gently. She shook her head. "He'll come back, maybe." Cade lifted her chin. "But you won't face him alone. Not ever again." Tears spilled freely. She pressed her forehead against his chest. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to." Emma ran out and wrapped her arms around Lily's shoulders. Cade folded them both into an embrace. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled, warming the room with the soft golden glow of hope. When they finally stepped back in, the storm clouds parted. A single beam of sunlight poured through the window, landing on the table where the Bible still lay open from the night before. Cade caught Lily's hand. She didn't pull away. "Christmas," he said softly, "is a day for new beginnings." She looked up at him, tears glistening. But this time, there was something else, something like peace, something like home. And for the first time in years, Cade Ellison felt like his cabin wasn't just a shelter. It was a place where broken people could be made whole again.